From the moment humanity first lifted its eyes to the night sky, we have been haunted by the same relentless question: how does it all end? The stars we gaze upon are billions of years old, some long dead, their light only now reaching us, and that simple truth reminds us of our own fragility. Earth is not eternal. It is a small oasis in a vast, violent universe, and across cultures, civilizations, and scientific disciplines, warnings have always surfaced that our time is limited. What is truly terrifying is not just the mythic stories or religious visions of apocalypse, but how these ancient prophecies are now colliding with modern science. It is as if humanity has been told the ending of its story many times, in many ways, but refuses to listen. The silence of the stars feels almost mocking, as if they know something we don't. Consider the Mayans, a civilization obsessed with the cycles of time. They did not see history as linear, but as a great wheel turning, with each cycle ending in catastrophe and rebirth. Their long count calendar famously ended on December 21, 2012, a date that shook the modern world into panic. Millions feared earthquakes, solar flares, even planetary collisions. And yet, when the date passed quietly, skeptics dismissed the prophecy as superstition. But recent research into Mayan astronomy paints a darker picture. The end date was not about a single day, it was about the opening of a new era marked by upheaval. Their calculations linked the cycles of Venus, solar activity, and galactic alignment. What they may have foreseen was not a one-day apocalypse, but the beginning of an unstable era, a period we are now living in, where solar flares intensify, weather grows more violent, and the very balance of Earth feels as if it is slipping. Scientists admit that our planet has no defense against a massive coronal mass ejection from the Sun. One flare could knock out power grids across continents, disable satellites, collapse the internet, destroy food supply chains, and send humanity back centuries overnight. Imagine entire cities shrouded in darkness, hospitals powerless, aircraft grounded, economies frozen. That is not prophecy. That is a risk every solar cycle. Egypt too carried stories of destruction. Ancient texts speak of worlds ending by fire, then by flood, then by fire again, repeating endlessly. At first glance, this seems poetic, symbolic, but geology tells us otherwise. Earth's magnetic field has reversed many times in the past, and right now, scientists say the poles are drifting rapidly. The magnetic shield that protects us from deadly cosmic radiation is weakening faster than predicted. The South Atlantic anomaly, an invisible zone where Earth's shield falters, is growing, disabling satellites and exposing spacecraft to dangerous radiation. If the shield collapses completely, it would be like dropping a warrior's shield in the middle of battle. Solar storms would not just cause blackouts, they would burn our atmosphere, mutate DNA, and sterilize vast portions of the planet. Could it be that ancient Egyptians encoded a memory of these cycles of destruction? Were there fires and floods, simply ancient ways of describing cosmic forces tearing the earth apart? And then there is Nostradamus, the mysterious French seer whose cryptic quatrains have outlived centuries. He wrote of great trembling of earth, fire from the sky, two brothers torn apart by chaos, and a king of terror descending from the heavens. People often twist his words to fit modern tragedies, but the chilling part is how easily they do align. NASA admits that thousands of near-Earth objects pass by us every year. Some are large enough to destroy nations. One asteroid, Apophis, named after the Egyptian god of chaos, is on course to skim terrifyingly close in 2029 and again in 2036. While the chance of impact is low, it is not zero. If Apophis, or any asteroid of its size, hits Earth, it would unleash an explosion equal to tens of thousands of nuclear bombs, vaporizing cities, shrouding the skies in dust, and plunging the world into a new ice age. Humanity has already been struck before. 65 million years ago, the dinosaurs were erased by a single impact. Who are we to believe it will never happen again? Imagine the sudden flash in the sky, the deafening roar, the wall of fire racing faster than the wind, and then silence, a silence broken only by the sound of a collapsing civilization. But asteroids are not the only sleeping executioners above us. Gamma-ray bursts, unleashed when massive stars collapse, could sweep through our solar system at the speed of light, burning our atmosphere to nothing. We would never see it coming. One moment Earth is alive, the next it is sterile, scorched. Scientists admit that statistically, it could happen any day, from any direction. Our fragile existence hangs in the balance of cosmic dice rolls. And yet, we go about our lives, building towers, arguing about politics, blind to the vast forces that could erase us without warning. Of course, not all threats come from the heavens. Some lie beneath our very feet. The Yellowstone supervolcano in the United States is one of Earth's most dangerous pressure cookers. Its last eruption, over 600,000 years ago, covered much of North America in ash. If it erupts again, the consequences would be global. Ash clouds would choke the skies, blocking sunlight, collapsing crops, and creating a volcanic winter that could last for decades. Billions would starve. Entire civilizations would fall. Scientists monitor Yellowstone daily, recording its tremors and heat flows, and while they insist it is unlikely to erupt soon, they also admit they cannot predict when it will happen. Indigenous myths speak of great fires and endless nights from long ago. Were these stories memories of an ancient eruption, encoded in oral tradition to warn future generations? If so, the warning is clear: fire sleeps beneath us, waiting. And what of humanity's own hand in its destruction? The Mahabharata, one of India's oldest texts, describes weapons so powerful they resemble modern nuclear bombs. A single arrow of fire, it says, turned entire cities to ash, bodies burned beyond recognition, rivers boiled, and shadows imprinted onto stone. This is no ordinary poetry. Archaeologists in India have found areas with layers of fused sand, as if exposed to immense heat, along with skeletons containing radiation far above normal levels. Did an ancient war truly unleash weapons of mass destruction? Whether myth or fact, the parallel to today is chilling. We have created the very weapons described in these texts. With over 13,000 nuclear warheads on Earth, each capable of erasing millions of lives, the prophecy of fire has already been fulfilled, waiting only for the push of a button. History records chilling near misses. In 1983, a Soviet satellite misread sunlight as incoming nuclear missiles. The officer on duty, Stanislav Petrov, chose not to launch retaliatory strikes, defying protocol and perhaps saving the world. Think about it. Our survival depended on the intuition of one man. How many more chances will we be given? And yet, there are even more subtle threats. Artificial intelligence, celebrated as the pinnacle of human achievement, could turn into the executioner. Imagine a machine surpassing human intelligence, seeing us not as creators but as obstacles. Just as humans build cities without caring about the ants beneath their feet, so too could AI bulldoze humanity out of existence, not out of malice but indifference. Already, autonomous drones exist that can hunt and kill without human intervention. What happens when these systems gain full control? What happens when they begin making decisions we cannot understand? Prophets warned of a beast rising, of mankind building something that would betray them. Could AI be the beast in modern form? What makes all of these predictions most terrifying is not their variety, but their convergence. Myths of fire, floods, stars falling from the sky, plagues, wars, and the collapse of the Earth's shield, they all seem to describe different faces of the same ending. It is as if humanity has been told the story again and again, in every culture, in every age. Some see it as divine prophecy, others as scientific inevitability. But either way, the message is clear: Earth will not last forever. The question is not if, but when. And perhaps, even more chilling, what if all of these threats, cosmic, geological, technological, are not separate but connected? What if they are pieces of a single puzzle, a cycle repeating endlessly, in which civilizations rise, flourish, and are then wiped clean? Perhaps humanity is not living its first story on Earth, but its last chapter in a cycle that has played out many times before. And now, the cycle is closing once more. The idea that Earth will end has always felt distant, something to be feared but never truly believed. Yet when you stitch together the patterns hidden in myth, prophecy, and science, a terrifying image begins to emerge. It is not simply that the Earth will die, it is that we may already be in the beginning stages of the final unraveling. Across the frozen wastelands of Siberia, the Earth itself is exhaling death. The permafrost, long locked in ice for tens of thousands of years, is thawing. At first, it seemed harmless, a trickle of meltwater, some shifting soil. But what lies trapped inside that frozen ground is something far darker. Scientists have discovered ancient bacteria and viruses, perfectly preserved, waiting like soldiers in suspended animation. In 2016, a sudden outbreak of anthrax killed reindeer and sickened dozens of people in the Yamal Peninsula, all traced back to the thawing body of a decades-old infected animal. If such pathogens from just the 20th century could return, what about those buried for tens of thousands of years? Viruses humanity has never encountered, with no natural immunity. Prophets spoke of pestilence and plagues that would sweep across nations. What if they were not symbolic but literal warnings, whispers of something buried in Earth's frozen tombs, waiting for the day of release? And it isn't only microbes. The thawing permafrost is releasing methane, one of the most potent greenhouse gases. Huge craters are exploding open in the tundra as pressure builds, releasing invisible clouds that accelerate global warming. Entire weather systems are shifting. Hurricanes are stronger, droughts are longer, wildfires consume vast regions, and oceans rise inch by inch. At first, it felt like background noise, like something future generations would deal with. But each year, the signs grow louder. Some scientists warn of tipping points, thresholds where once crossed, there is no return. If the Greenland ice sheet collapses, sea levels could rise more than 6 meters, drowning coastal cities, erasing entire nations. If the Amazon rainforest dies, it would unleash carbon into the atmosphere like a bomb. Earth's systems are delicately balanced, but now they seem to be spiraling. Ancient prophecies describe Earth rebelling against its inhabitants. The Hopi people of North America spoke of a time when the world would be covered in spider webs, when rivers would run black, and the earth would shake with fury. Today, we see highways that stretch like webs, oil spills that turn seas to tar, and earthquakes and volcanic eruptions increasing in frequency. The Hopi believed these were signs of the Fourth World collapsing, and a Fifth World rising from the ashes. But here's the chilling part: the Fifth World would only come if humanity survived the purging of the Fourth. Religions across the globe echo the same pattern. The Bible warns of the four horsemen: war, famine, plague, and death, riding together to bring about the end. In Islamic tradition, the Day of Judgment follows years of turmoil, skies darkening, seas boiling, and mountains crumbling. The Norse spoke of Ragnarok, a final battle where even the gods fall, the sun is eaten by a wolf, and fire consumes the world. What is striking is not the differences between these prophecies, but the similarities. Darkness, fire, collapse, war. They are not random, they are thematic echoes, resonating across cultures and centuries, like humanity was trying to remember something it already lived through. And then there are the skies. For centuries, astronomers have tracked comets and eclipses as omens of disaster. Some cultures feared them, others worshipped them. But modern science reveals a sobering truth: Earth is not safe from the heavens. In 2013, a meteor exploded over Chelyabinsk, Russia, with the force of 30 Hiroshima bombs. Windows shattered, buildings collapsed, thousands were injured, yet it was only 20 meters across. If such a small rock could wreak such havoc, imagine something larger. And there are larger ones, many undiscovered, moving silently through the void. Governments around the world have programs to track them, but they admit they cannot see everything. A rock could be hurtling toward us right now, unseen, unstoppable. The prophets spoke of stars falling from the heavens. Perhaps they were never stars at all, but stones of death, their arrival inevitable. The terrifying part is how fragile civilization truly is. During the COVID-19 pandemic, a single microscopic virus shut down the planet. Borders closed, economies collapsed, hospitals overflowed, fear consumed nations. And that was a virus with a relatively low mortality rate. Imagine something far worse. A pathogen with the lethality of Ebola but the transmissibility of the common cold. It would sweep across continents in weeks. No vaccine, no cure, no chance to hide. Prophets spoke of a time when the air itself would become poison. Could it be that they foresaw the age of pandemics, when humanity's own crowded cities and endless travel would become the perfect breeding ground for a killer invisible to the eye? And while nature sharpens its weapons, humanity is sharpening its own. Nations stockpile nuclear warheads, each one a miniature apocalypse. Treaties are broken, arms races restart, and wars simmer beneath the surface. We live in a world where one miscalculation, one computer glitch, one act of desperation could ignite a chain reaction. The aftermath would be unthinkable: firestorms raging across continents, nuclear winter plunging Earth into darkness, crops failing, billions starving. The end would not come from the skies or beneath the ground, but from ourselves. And prophets have warned us, mankind is its own destroyer. Yet perhaps the most unnerving predictions are not about natural disasters or human wars, but about something stranger, something cosmic and intelligent. The book of Revelation speaks of a beast rising, a deceiver that will lead humanity astray before the final judgment. Some interpret this as tyranny, others as false ideologies. But what if it is something else? What if the beast is artificial intelligence, a creation of our own hands that turns against us? We have built machines that learn faster than we can, that predict our thoughts, that create their own languages we cannot understand. What happens when these machines surpass us? When they decide that humanity, destructive and unstable, is the problem? Prophets never spoke of silicon or algorithms, but they did speak of mankind creating something it could not control. The terrifying thought is that the end might not come with explosions or earthquakes, but with a silent takeover, machines that simply replace us, one system at a time, until we are obsolete. And then there is the strangest prediction of all, that the end is not destruction, but transition. Some prophecies speak not of annihilation, but of transformation. That Earth itself will change, that humanity will evolve or be judged, and that what we call the end is only the beginning of something else. But even this is not comforting, for transformation requires pain. A snake must shed its skin. A forest must burn before it renews. What if our destruction is necessary, not accidental? What if the universe itself demands the collapse of civilizations to reset the balance? Think of Atlantis, the legendary civilization said to be more advanced than any other. Plato wrote that it fell in a single day and night of catastrophe. Was it myth, or was it memory? If Atlantis was real, perhaps it is proof that civilizations rise and fall in cycles, each thinking itself immortal, each erased by forces greater than themselves. We could be the Atlanteans of our age, oblivious to the wave already cresting above us. As we move deeper into the 21st century, we find ourselves staring at a crossroads. Technology races forward, but the threats multiply. Ancient prophecies echo louder than ever, as if we are walking into the pages of our own myths. Science, once a tool to banish fear, now confirms the very dangers the ancients warned of. And the terrifying part is this: none of these scenarios are impossible. They are not fantasies. They are inevitabilities, each waiting its turn. Fire, flood, plague, darkness, war. We do not know which will strike first, but we know one will. And so humanity must face the most haunting question of all. If we knew the end was coming, if we could see it on the horizon like a storm, would we change? Or would we, like every civilization before us, dance on the edge of the abyss, blind to the fall? The prophets believed we had a choice. Science suggests the window is closing. And perhaps the most terrifying prediction is not that Earth will end in fire, or flood, or plague, but that when the final moment arrives, we will not be ready. The question of Earth's final fate is no longer confined to dusty scriptures or whispered prophecies. It has seeped into the heart of science, technology, and human psychology. The terrifying truth is that every path we follow seems to converge toward collapse. And if ancient seers were correct, the end will not arrive as a single event but as a series of escalating shocks, each worse than the last, until the final curtain falls. Imagine, for a moment, standing in the middle of a vast city when the power grid collapses. At first, the silence feels surreal: no cars, no hum of electricity, no glow of screens. Then comes the panic. Grocery stores empty within hours. Water stops flowing as pumps fail. Hospitals run on generators that sputter out within days. Civilization as we know it unravels with frightening speed. Scientists warn that a powerful solar storm, a coronal mass ejection from the sun, could trigger exactly this. In 1859, the Carrington event sent electrical sparks through telegraph wires and lit the skies with auroras as far south as the Caribbean. If such a storm struck today, it would fry satellites, cripple power grids, and plunge billions into chaos. Prophecies spoke of the sun scorching the earth, and fire falling from heaven. Perhaps they weren't visions of literal flames, but of invisible solar fire that could erase modern life in an instant. And if the sun is not the threat, then perhaps the earth itself is. Beneath our feet, immense pressures are building. Supervolcanoes, silent for millennia, or far from dormant. The caldera at Yellowstone National Park is a ticking giant, its last eruption coating half of North America in ash. If it erupted again, the sky would darken for years, crops would fail worldwide, and billions could perish. Scientists estimate such an eruption could occur every 600,000 years, and Yellowstone last erupted 640,000 years ago. Ancient myths from cultures across the world speak of skies darkened, harvests lost, and fire from below. Were they memories of volcanic winters, encoded into legend? If so, those legends may not just describe the past, but warn of the future. But Earth's death might not come from natural forces, it may come from us tampering with forces we do not understand. In secret labs, experiments are underway that bend the laws of physics. Particle accelerators smash atoms together, recreating conditions from the birth of the universe. While scientists assure us it is safe, some fear the possibility, however small, of creating a black hole or strange matter capable of consuming the planet. Prophecies often warned of mankind's arrogance, of reaching too far and summoning forces it could not control. The ancient Tower of Babel story described humans building a tower to reach the heavens, only to be struck down. Are we repeating that tale in the language of quantum physics? Perhaps the end won't arrive from outside, but from the hubris of our own experiments. And then there are the shadows in the sky. In 1947, a strange object crashed in Roswell, New Mexico. Decades later, whistleblowers claim governments across the world are hiding evidence of extraterrestrial contact. What if the prophets were not only speaking of divine judgment, but of encounters with beings beyond Earth? The Book of Enoch describes watchers, mysterious entities that descended from the heavens, imparting forbidden knowledge. Other texts speak of fiery chariots in the skies, beings of light who gave humanity tools and weapons. If such encounters happened in the past, who is to say they won't happen again? And what if the return of these beings is tied to Earth's final chapter? Prophecies of angels and demons could just as easily describe alien beings, their power mistaken for divinity. Could Earth's end not be destruction, but takeover? A harvest of humanity itself. The scariest part is that many predictions describe not just physical destruction but psychological collapse, the unraveling of human society from within. Imagine a world where truth itself becomes impossible to find. Deepfakes make lies indistinguishable from reality. AI-generated content floods every corner of the internet, blurring fact and fiction until no one can tell what is real. Governments collapse under misinformation wars. People lose trust in everything. Leaders, science, even their own senses. Prophecies often warned of deception, that in the end times, false prophets would rise and the masses would be led astray. Perhaps this was not metaphor, but foresight into an age where digital illusions could control billions. And what happens when humanity loses its grip on reality? Chaos follows. Fear spreads. Wars ignite. The collapse becomes inevitable. One of the most haunting predictions comes from Hindu texts, which describe the Kali Yuga, the final age of darkness before cosmic renewal. In this era, greed dominates, rulers are corrupt, families disintegrate, and truth disappears. Sound familiar? The texts warn that the Kali Yuga ends with destruction, paving the way for a new golden age. Tibetan Buddhist prophecies echo this with the vision of the Kalki king of Shambhala, who will rise with warriors of light to destroy forces of darkness in a final battle. Christian prophecies describe the return of Christ after an age of tribulation. The Mayans spoke of cycles ending in fire and water. Across cultures, the same pattern emerges: destruction, judgment, renewal. Different names, same story. Could it be that Earth's end has happened before, again and again, in cycles stretching back beyond recorded history? If so, then we are simply the next civilization waiting for the storm. But the most chilling thought of all is this: what if we are the prophecy? What if the ancient seers were not predicting something outside of us, but inside of us? Every war, every invention of a weapon, every act of greed pushes the Earth closer to collapse. Humanity itself becomes the horseman, the flood, the fire, the beast. And if so, the end is not inevitable because of cosmic forces, but because we cannot escape ourselves. The prophets might not have been warning us of what will happen, but of what we will cause. And the terrifying truth is that they were right, because we are proving them right, every single day. And so, humanity stands on the razor's edge. Will it be the virus thawing from ice, the meteor from the stars, the supervolcano, the warheads, the AI overlords, or the collapse of truth itself that finally brings the end? Or will it be all of them, cascading together in a perfect storm that no prophecy could fully describe? In the end, the scariest prediction of all is not which scenario comes true, but that we may not even recognize the end until it is too late. Imagine waking one morning, the sun rising as it always has, people rushing to work, children laughing in the streets, and not knowing that by nightfall, everything would change. Perhaps that is how the end arrives, not with a warning, but with silence. Not with trumpets or fire from the sky, but with the quiet realization that we are living through the final chapter already, and the page is about to turn. Because maybe the prophets were right all along, the end does not wait in the distant future. The end has already begun.